Well, it's begun. The road crews have been out all day today, putting down salt brine at intersections, and that means they're expecting some nasty weather. The 55 was in the shop, but since Billy blew the engine up in the truck, and Tommy's truck's coming back, I kind of need to make some space. So me and June Pup decided to take the old 55 Chevy back up the farm and put it in the barn. June Pup was pretty excited to go chase some goats, but none of them were out today when we were there. So June Pup didn't have too much work to do today at the farm while she was there. We fired up Dad's old Lodestar, and I decided to take it back down to my shop so that I might be able to haul a little bit of limestone later this week for the driveway. It was 45 degrees and sunny today. Pretty daggone good for January. I figured now is the time to get Billy's dually cleaned up before the weather turns bad and the garden hose refreezes out in the yard. That truck was filthy dirty when we brought it back from New Orleans, and it lost that hubcap. So I snuck over to Trails West, picked up a new set of simulators, brought it home, and me and Kenny Powers gave the truck a bath and started putting the new simulators on. June Pup, of course, was helping. Once we got all 4 simulators put on, I decided to clean all the glass inside and out, clean the mirrors, and get all the bug guts off the front bumper, the grill, the headlights, and of course the windshield. Once we were done on the outside of the truck, Kenny opened up the doors and started sweeping it out and looking for treasures. He found a license plate underneath the back seat. Anyway, we swept out all the cup holders, swept all the carpet, all the floor mats, and then Kenny even went outside and washed all the road grime off Billy's S10. It was terribly dirty by the time we got it home from New Orleans. Once we had all that done, it was time to back the dually out and check out this brand new set of simulators. And you gotta remember, June Pup's never too far away from me. These new simulators actually bolt on using the lug nuts. The old ones just clipped on, which is why one of them fell off. Much nicer setup. Once we were all done cleaning the truck up, I drove it down to the truck stop and filled it up with fuel so that it's sitting there ready to go in case we need to hook to a trailer and head south in a hurry. When it comes to street racing in January, you just never know when things are going to heat up. When I got back to the shop, Kenny helped me clean up the merchandise side, and we pushed Billy's S10 in there and then brought Kenny's daily and put it on the lift. So what'd you find, Kenny Powers?
Master's not as bad.
That's what it looks like to me. I'll call down to Mark tomorrow and see if we can get you a new one.
Big Joe still.
Yeah.
Leftovers.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the shop. So Billy's video dropped on Street Racing Channel tonight of our trip to the pad. And first I want to say thank you to BJ and everybody at the pad who put that race on. We had a great time. I've seen some comments that BJ was showing favoritism, and I can assure you that's not the case. I can't get into that tonight. I don't have time to get into that tonight, but maybe tomorrow I'll talk a little bit about BJ and the flagging that he does. And I've gotten a lot of messages today, and even some text messages from very prominent, I would consider very prominent street racers from all over the country, questioning BJ's integrity because of the 2 cars that it appeared that they were trying to burn Tommy down. I don't know if they were or not. I don't care. I can assure you though that BJ would not do that. He would not be part of that. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole tonight. I want to talk a little bit about what happened to the truck and how we got where we are right now. We need to back up a little bit to before we went to the pad. When Billy first got this carburetor, he called me down to his new shop because he pulled it out of the box, put it on the truck, and had problems immediately.
What's going on?
So when I turn the fuel pump on, it's dumping fuel out these vents.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them. I lowered the fuel pressure down to like 3 pounds, 3 pounds, and it stopped, but as soon as you go up past 3 pounds, it keeps dumping out.
I shook my head because now I know they've not only screwed up the carburetor, but now the fuel pressure regulator's messed up too. So the only thing I knew to do was go ahead and pull the bowls off to check, and sure enough, the bowls are full of dirt. The fuel system needs some maintenance. So I pulled the needle and seats out of the carburetor, clean everything all up, put it back together, put it on the truck, and it fires up and runs perfect. The next day, Billy takes the truck up to Pacemakers for a private test session. The first pass was really decent. The second pass, the throttle stuck wide open. No idea why. I thought maybe it was a mistake that I had made, so I looked it over very close to the track, made another pass, and it hung wide open again. Now this time I know the problem is definitely in the truck and not the guy working on the carburetor. I basically begged Billy to let me bring the truck back to my shop and let me figure out what's wrong with the throttle. I found that if the secondaries blow over center, the linkage locks wide open throttle. So I fixed the carburetor, and Kenny and I take the entire fuel system apart from one end to the other. I drive to Jegs, go pick up all new filters. We clean all the fuel lines out, flush everything out, and then we look in the fuel tank and find one hell of a mess. We clean the fuel tank out as best we can, flush the lines, and the next day we load up tools to go to the dyno session. Kenny fills his fuel jugs, tops off his fuel cell. I hook the truck to the trailer. Everything's ready to go, so when Billy gets there, all he has to do is load the S10 on the trailer and tie it down. So Billy loads the truck up on the trailer, and he made a comment out there while Tommy was filming him that upset me, and I said, I'll just stay home, man. You go ahead and do it yourself. And when he came in the house, when it was time to go, he said, are you coming? I said, do you want me to go? And he said, well, I can change the jets myself. You don't need to be there. All right. So Billy straps this thing on the dyno and makes one pull after another, adding more and more and more fuel, chasing a number on the air-fuel ratio monitor. And I stand there and watch him torture this poor little small block nearly to death. The little engine that I had put together for Tommy's truck, that doesn't have all the best parts in it, but it's what we had. It's what we could afford at the time. It was a good little engine. It had good machine work. But most importantly to me, it was the first engine I'd ever got to build with Tommy, my youngest son. I had built many engines with Billy, but this engine was special to me because when I started my YouTube channel the first month that I had a good month, I called California and ordered this block shipped to the shop. And I know this engine's only got a 50-50 shot at surviving as soon as BJ bangs a light.
something at the end, or what it do? Fucking died at the end, and I tried to restart it, and it seemed like the battery was dead because it was turning over real slow. And I'm looking at the oil pressure, and there's nothing. It started up after a minute.
What's on the magnet?
A lot of shimmeriness. You see it too.
You smell it? All right, guys, so there it is. It's cold out here in the shop. I've got the heat on, but it's still pretty cold out here tonight. It's pretty late. I'm gonna try and get this video finished up. So basically what happened in there on the dyno was that Billy took the truck in there to basically, he just wanted to test and make sure the carburetor didn't stick wide open. We didn't think the carburetor was that far off. And in reality, it really wasn't. The problem was that Billy felt confident in his air-fuel ratio monitor because it had always worked well with the other carburetor. However, when we put the bigger carburetor on and we start throwing a lot more air and fuel at the engine, his extremely conservative ignition timing settings, I believe, were not adequate to burn the additional fuel that this new carburetor was flowing with the amount of air the carburetor would flow. And so when you don't have enough ignition timing, you don't burn all the fuel that you're putting into the engine, and the raw fuel tends to come out the exhaust. And here's the problem. An O2 sensor is designed to measure unburned oxygen in the exhaust system. And when you are putting raw fuel out the exhaust or an overly rich tune-up out the exhaust, the unburnt methanol, as it passes across the O2 sensor, will make the O2 sensor read lean. And I believe that's what was happening. The reason I believe that is because the O2 sensor that Billy had in the truck read lean, and they pulled it out and put the O2 sensor in it from the dyno, and it also read lean within 1/10 of a point. So that tells me that the O2 sensor was fine. The problem was what's flowing across it is not fine. And I watched a video the other day, and I thought this was really good. I watched the video the other day, and I'm sorry I can't remember the fella's name. If I could remember it, I would tell you, because it was a really good video. The guy was explaining an oxygen sensor is not a witness to what's happening in the combustion chamber. An oxygen sensor is like asking a witness who stood around the corner behind some bushes what he saw where he couldn't see it. He thinks he saw something, he thought he heard something, okay, but it's not a direct witness. The direct witness is the person who was there in the combustion chamber, the spark plug. Spark plugs never lie. They never lie. And, you know, unfortunately, this whole thing just kind of spiraled out of control once we got there, and once it didn't make exactly the power that Billy thought it was going to make, he was bound and determined to make it make the power he wanted it to make, and he wasn't prepared to do that. I offered to help Billy one time towards the end I told him, if you want my help, I'll help you, but I'm not going to help you unless you ask. And he didn't ask, so I didn't help. But I did tell him, you're on the verge of blowing this thing up if you don't stop. And I think he made one more pull. He took some fuel away from it and made one more pull, and it was still down 100 and some horsepower. And at that point, he decided just to load it up and take it home. So on the way home, I tried to explain to him calmly and rationally, the best I could, what I thought was going wrong. And he insisted that it had to be lean. And I said, buddy, you can't put the amount of fuel through that engine that you put through it and lose 200 horsepower and have it be lean. You don't lose power on a lean condition by throwing fuel at it. If it's lean and you throw fuel at it, it's going to make more power. If it's already rich and you throw more fuel at it, then then you're definitely going to lose power. I don't care what that air fuel ratio monitor says. You really need to look at the spark plugs, which he didn't have new spark plugs with him, and the plugs that were in it were terrible. I mean, I don't think it takes too much to see the little bits and pieces of these videos that the truck probably doesn't get the maintenance that it requires, especially to the fuel system. And that probably honestly goes for both of them. They only seem to get maintenance or work done on them when they don't run right, or when they won't run at all. If the Falcon completely dies and won't run, then that's his indicator that the filters need to be changed. So it is what it is. He's a good person. I know he's got a good heart, and I love him to death. But I'll tell you, I am sick to freaking death of getting beat up on the internet, pounded every freaking day. And I know Kevin's tired of it. I mean, you know, it really upset Kevin, that video that he made, because it really didn't do Kevin any justice. It damn sure didn't do me any justice. You know, there's a million people on there saying, oh, you got to put an LS in it, you got to put fuel injection in it. Well, I got news for you. It don't matter what you put in that truck. If it's not kept maintained and it's got a terrible tune-up in it, it ain't gonna matter. Ain't none of it's gonna survive. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop off here for tonight, guys. Tomorrow, Kenny and I plan on a little shop party out here. I think I'm gonna maybe go get some pizza for me and Kenny. Kenny and I plan on going ahead and pulling this little small block apart, and we'll see how bad it's tore up. I'm 100% certain the crankshaft is tore all to pieces, but we'll see if the connecting rods are still salvageable. It may be something we can put bearings and a crankshaft in and run it again, depending on the damage that we find tomorrow when we take it apart. Luckily, we have Uncle Bob up at McVeigh's Automotive and Machine, who's already on standby. He knows it's coming. Bob has done an outstanding job for us in the past with machine work. Obviously, that was an Ohio crankshaft crank and rods in that thing, and obviously you could see it was making 1,200 horsepower to the rear wheels on accident before Billy put his super tune to it. But and you know, we beat it up pretty good. I'm just glad the block is gonna, you know, it didn't window the block, and it didn't window the oil pan, and nothing's hanging out of it. It didn't ruin a cylinder head. Like, this was the most gentle way you could possibly blow up an engine and not damage anything terribly. So I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for the opportunities that we get to go racing. I'm thankful for everybody who watches and likes and subscribes and comments, good and bad. And there's a lot of bad ones. There's a lot of stupid ones. I really wish stupidity was painful. If stupidity was painful, there would be a lot less stupidity in this world. But unfortunately, that's not the way God made stupidity. Stupidity is only painful for everybody that's not stupid. So, some things to think about, guys. Billy's young, he's still learning, and I have a feeling that maybe this will be a lesson he will never forget. I feel bad for Tommy, and I said something to Tommy down at the pad. I said, I'm sorry about your engine, and Tommy looked at me and said, I don't care. And that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, because I know what Tommy meant. I know what Tommy meant by that. He said he didn't care because, Billy helped him build that engine financially anyway. So really, it was Billy's engine. But when I said I was sorry to Tommy about the engine, what I meant was, I'm sorry that it got tore up, because that engine was special to me. Because I got to build it with Tommy. So that's it for tonight, guys. See you tomorrow.